Thank you for joining us for our first segment, and we're going to heat up this conversation really quick. We're going to start with Dr. Cuellar, so stay tuned. We have with us representatives from our first town hall. Would you believe it or not, it has been a year since we sat here and spoke with a couple of other guests, including our guest this morning. But today we have Doreth Cayetano Obermayer, who is the president of the Public Service Union. And we also have Dominique Noralez, who's the youth representative. Good morning. Good morning. We also have Dr. Fernando Cuellar, internist at the Belize Medical Associates, and my doctor. And we have Paul Morgan, who's a representative for the third parties. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin.
Everybody. Good morning, Belize.
Dr. Cuellar, has anything changed in terms of the way that last time you were here, you were very passionate and very clear as to what your views are in terms of what needed to be done and where we were. Has your view changed and tempered over the year that you've had the benefit of everything that has gone on?
Straight answer, no, Kevin. Definitely not. On the contrary, it has been reinforced. My point number one has been, and still is, that this whole Guatemala issue is a little distraction, or a big distraction, from the real issues that face Belize and real issues that face Guatemalans. What I've done over the past year is actually, I would say that I know my Belizean people, but I may get a little bit more. I think I know Guatemalan, so I reinforce the Guatemalan people business. Guatemalan people couldn't care less about this issue. My boy, Jimmy Morales, and the military and the elite, they push this thing. You got a Melchor, you got a Huehuetenango, you got a Quetzaltenango, you got a Zacapa. And they wouldn't care less about this Belizean business. So I don't like nobody fool you. The masses ain't give a damn. I don't want to say some other words, but ain't give a damn about this thing. Then you worry about the same issues where we have the Belize, which is insecurity, which is economics, put food on the table, same exact thing, and maybe more. When you talk about them and their leaders, Jimmy, you should have said anything when I say about Abali, the vast majority of them.
And in Belize, it's the same?
It's the same. You talk to everybody, you go around, you talk to them cameraman right or so, and you hear the same pressing issues. Security or lack of security. How much the gas there, how we pay there, how we infrastructure there, how we transport, how we health business, how we education. Okay? Guatemala, the non-entity, and I have said that before. We know they were power there if we look for we numbers and all of the economists' fancy numbers about GDP and how much we owe. That not come about because of Guatemala. You ever hear anybody say, boy, I'm not going to invest in Belize because Guatemala have one thing. As a matter of fact, we have Guatemalan big companies here investing. So these are like, look at the little shiny thing, and then they punch you in your side or take your thing. So that's where it happened. Okay. Point number two. I said it then. I think I used the word like, because I watched the clip over and over. I said, I hope this not decay into party politics. Guess what?
Prophetic.
Yeah.
Guess what?
In fact, it was your
father that was more passionate thing.
Yeah.
If there was one, you hear, and then you hear, oh, this is an existential issue and all that fancy word, and this is a life and death thing. And we can't get together as one Belizean crowd. We can't get together. What else? But I guess we get the leaders we deserve, no?
Absolutely.
Okay? We get the leaders we deserve. We book it ourselves. Okay? Nobody book it we book it ourselves. Okay? And then the next third thing I'm going to talk about this, I'm going after Alexis Rosado.
Yes.
About this education. Which educational campaign going on, Mabel? The two propaganda campaigns they go on. I asked one task force. Okay? We ain't got this referendum unit. And I want one task force with 20 people from two sides representing the cross-section so that we hire international lawyers. No, boy, we're not going to last legal thing for the past, 11 years. Then we run the bargain as Corleone and next one gone where the snowman there. I say, whoa, see what he say? And then we got billboards to go up with for. The only thing when we left that, make they put Jesus Christ on a billboard and say yes or no to the referendum. That's the only thing we left, or the Pope, or a Muslim leader, or a Buddhist leader.
We wind up Dr. Cuellar, so.
Yeah. It was, no, I think,
So,
but that was one of the interesting reflections when I watched the tape back, that there was a very passionate plea. And remember, the structure of the town hall was the opportunity to directly ask your questions to the people leading the charge, which was Minister Ellington and head of the referendum unit, Ambassador Rosado. And your plea was, please don't let this deteriorate into party politics. And it was fresh after the announcement of the date, and we clearly see how things went after that. Let me get the youth perspective over here, right?
Yes.
So Dominique, we've actually seen young people being very involved in this process. Those involved from the youth department have been in the facilitators for the referendum unit. Talk to me about how you feel about youth representation.
I think young people are at where we're at for most issues, very split. Well, my friend group is very split. The young people I talk to are very split. When it comes to the young people who at the department who are involved in the education campaign, I chose to stay away from that for my own personal reasons. But I think young people, some of us are suffering from apathy, and for good reason, because it deteriorated into this whole party political issue, which is why young people are, in the first place, suffer from apathy, political apathy. And then there are other young people who are staunch yeses, and the ones who are no's feel stifled because of who they are, or where they work, or the school they go to. And so I think it's you can't tell, because there's victimization, and then there's people who are jumping on the bandwagon of a yes because everybody's doing it, kind of thing. So I think that's where young people are. For me, my stance has not much changed, but I am disappointed in the procedure. I don't think we handled it as well as we should have. I don't think we were as proactive as we could have been, which is why an injunction came at the last minute. And I didn't take issue with the injunction, because I said, well, better late than never, you know. But the best thing we catch it now before we go out there, and we never catch it and somebody bring it up, or it just for the optics, it wouldn't work. So for me, it's just the procedure that worries me.
Dominique, though, out of all the other constituent groups, youth seem to be the most polled. I was just looking at the poll yesterday with the Honorable Francis Fonseca, and he was looking at...
Poll via social media?
No, this apparently was a poll done at SJCJC, I believe, where it was almost 2-1, like 389 votes to 180 something votes. Then there was one in Belmopan at UB.
I think they did one when they had the referendum forum.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then there was another one for the girls at STA. So you guys have been one of the most polled groups.
That is true.
And the polls seem to show that young people, I don't know, I can't verify the polls.
I don't know that.
But the polls seem to be saying yes.
My problem with the polls is that was it the young people that started these polls, right? Did it come from young people, or did someone come and say, let me poll you? And
does it matter?
It does.
Why?
It does, because polls usually follow a talk.
Oh, and you're saying they kind of, you know?
Of course, there's
It's like asking you how afraid you are about plane crashes and then showing a video about all the plane crashes
you know what I mean? Kind of thing. If it is, and the onus, of course, falls on us. We know that we're the largest population group, and we know all of these things about young people. And so the onus is on us to really make a decision, whatever decision that is, and live by it and stand true to it on May 9th, and defend it throughout whatever it is, whether we go or not. Because in truth and in fact, it will be us who have to deal with this. Either way it goes, right? So I think it differs in whatever constituency you go to, in whatever school you go to. I think the stance very much differs, and then you have the young people who are just left by the wayside by choice or otherwise.
Do you think they're going to participate tomorrow?
I do.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people tend to be very dismissive as to whether or not young people will show up and vote.
No, I think we will.
Yeah?
I think we will.
That brings me to Mr. Morgan. Looking at, we have a year to look at this. You have been front and center for a lot of the talks, and you have been on the tour. I've seen you at least at 3.
Only 3?
I'm talking about my very limited exposure. But in assessing what's going to happen tomorrow, you have an intimate understanding of politics. You've been on the ballot before. How does one assess what will happen tomorrow? What tools do you apply? Because this seems like a whole different animal.
Well, I can't really be that genius who would explain to you everything. If I could have, then I wouldn't be here. Okay, but for me it has been a spiritual journey of civics, I would call it. Oh. It was an amazing revelation how still colonialistic minded we are in Belize. Very, very. And how much work we have to do before we become a nation. That is in essence.
Could you elaborate
yes,
on that further?
I will.
And we are already a nation.
Yes. Take, for example, and I just want to clarify something that you guys were just talking about, polls.
Yes.
You know that at the University of Belize, there was a poll by the Youth Services Department after one debate. And the numbers didn't match up. And nobody's side. The media didn't pick it up. Nothing happened. So that brings me to my first issue. I have 3 groups of what you call social movement organizations that that we have to talk about here. And I'll go up least to the highest. The least, but very effective in guiding our discussion, is the issue of media. Mm-hmm. The media has been one of the most, I don't want to offend, but lacking, I would like to say lacking, I say this with love, you know, but lacking in terms of guidance to the Belizean people. To this day, for example, just give you an example before I move on to the second one. To this day, we're still hearing here, we are going to have an ICJ referendum and we'll determine whether or not we go to the ICJ. Nonsense. We're going to decide whether or not we're going to approve or disapprove the special agreement. You see, when you ask the wrong questions, you tend to get the wrong answers. So now, the Belizean people are all concentrated on, you're going to ICJ or not. That you approve this special agreement. All the answers and all the issues are in the special agreement. But you don't hear that from the media. We have already set the people up to think ICJ. I'll move up to the second one.
The special agreement, no, wait. You can't just put something out there and at this very generalized concept of the media without being more specific, firstly. Okay. Secondly, one thing I can tell you from my experience is that it's always been the case that when someone has an agenda and it's not being met, they clearly blame it on the media. So I want to say that much. And the job that we have is to simplify the process. The process is going to the ICJ. So, Mr. Morgan, respectfully, while you may not agree with the terminology, we have to be able to break it down as best as possible into what it really is. And the special agreement is a course to taking this claim to the ICJ.
Oh yes, agree with you.
Thank you.
Agree with you. But the fact is that most people hear about this, the going to the ICJ. For example, Marlene, you were wined and dined at The Hague.
Excuse me?
Well, I guess.
No, wait.
You went to The Hague. You went to The Hague.
All right.
Let's just, okay.
So backtrack.
No.
First of all.
Just give me a chance to talk.
I will not allow this to deteriorate into a personal attack.
No.
And I have tough enough skin. I've heard it all out there. But on this show, we're focused on one thing, and this is the process. There was a media education campaign, And that's what it was.
Okay. So, but just give me a chance to break down the three issues, the three areas that I have discovered, that I have seen. And I know you're kind of vexed with me because media is your, yeah. But let me just finish this. That the media has been one of the most lacking groups or social movement areas that has not been doing its job to give the people the right information. So let me move on. The second, I'll move up. The second is that we have experienced the death of unionism. I know Doreth might get vexed with me about this again.
Everybody get their box this morning.
Yeah, box.
I like Trump, box.
The death of unionism. We have not seen unions, groups take a position. Take, for example, not one union has taken a position on the most important issue that Belize will face or has ever faced. No, that is a fact. So I could go on and give you more examples, but let me go to the highest. This is the highest level. The most, I don't want to use the word ignorance, but the most area where you have the lack of knowledge that I found was at the universities, the tertiary level institutions. From bottom to top, the most lack of knowledge in the country, and then it is expressed in apathy. Apathy of the young people. So when you ask the question...
All the young people go to university.
Yes, apathy. But I'm speaking about young people at university. So when you ask the question, will young people come out to vote? I want to wager. Now, you asked me about my experience in politics. I want to wager that young people will not be factoring in the vote tomorrow. Wow. Because they just can't get the connection as to how this thing matters in their lives. Key is this fact. What has the media, how much has the media spoken about the impact of this on the lives of the young people? How much has the media focused on how the ICJ or this decision on the special agreement, they call it the ICJ decision, will impact our economy? Nobody has spoken on that as yet.
And do you have any, sorry.
Well, please. Don't get vexed with me now because I am putting it. So those three areas are lacking.
But tell me then.
Yeah.
How will it affect young people?
Very, very much so. Let me tell you something.
I don't ask the degree, ask how.
Let me tell you something. Remittances plays a huge role in the economy of this country. Remittances from outside. Mm-hmm. Do you think that in the 4 years, maybe you guys aren't seeing it as yet, but as an economist I know, that in the next few years, should we say yes to this special agreement and we begin to proceed, and you start to hear from the radio stations, from the media, well, at the ICJ today, this was said, and that was said, and this was done. And as we watch our fortunes tide and ebb and rise, do you believe really that people will be seriously investing in Belize? Now we say that people aren't investing, but it's not true. Dr. Cuellar just told you, big investment going on in Belize, things are going fine. Is it that we are not focused on the right questions here? And in my experience, you asked me, so I told you, my experience is that we are not focused on the right questions, and it starts from what we see and what we hear from our media, then it feeds into our social structures, and unionism, and then
so maybe that's a good point here to get Doreth to jump in. You heard the good gentleman say, listen, he called it the death, the eulogy for unionism. You are the queen of unionism in Belize. It's clear that, and if I could just summarize, the sentiment I get from Mr. Morgan is he feels a bit jaded. He feels disappointed in where we are. And he has named where his disappointment is. He says the media, he says unions, he says young people. He hasn't said doctors, so doctors are in good stead. But what is your sentiment, Doreth, in terms of where we are, and has there been any feeling from the unions in hindsight?
I would turn around and say, from where we are, as also a part of the referendum commission that was formed, I believe that a lot had been done, but I am not going to say that more couldn't be done in regards to saying that at the end of the day, there are some lacking areas as it relates to the education aspect. One of the things that we have agreed upon was that, you know what, this was never supposed to be a party politics thing. That was mandatory of us from the commission to say we are going to go out and deliver the information that was given to us, the ones that we have received, the ones that were researched by former historians, all the documents, those were the mandates given to the referendum commission. We agreed to that, and that was the direction we were supposed to take. Yes, there are situations whereby it went a different direction. The political aspect interfered into everything, and we would hear out there that, you know what, the PUP is doing their own thing, the UDP is doing their own campaign. At the end of the day, where is the national aspect of this entire campaign?
And that's where I wanted to tap in, because we heard from the NTUCB and the BNTU, and they spoke of having their members vote their conscience. While Mr. Moore himself had said he's a no, he would, the decision was made that all union members would vote their conscience. Do you think that because we saw very early on the PUP-UDP split on this issue, that the unions were hesitant to take a position?
I can't speak for all unions, but I'm going to speak on the Public Service Union of Belize.
Yeah.
From the onset, my position was we are going to go out and educate our people. We were going to give them the information simply because we are representing a diverse set of people. We can't, until we would have said, you know what, we go and reach out to our people and say we take that poll and then decide. But still, it would have been unfair for us to say, you know what, because the majority decided that we're going to go yes, PSU going to go yes. What about those who are the minorities who would have said no, or vice versa? Then at the end of the day, our people might just look at us and say, wait, you are supposed to be representing all of us, not just a few of us who say yes, not just a few of us who say no, or the other way around. And so from that point of view, when we sat down around the table and discussed what direction the union was going to take in regards to the ICJ, it was one that we have agreed, educate, that at the end of the day, come referendum day, our members are going to vote based on the information that they have been given, and realizing that at the end of the day, that decision is one that they need to do as an individual.
I have this question as it runs through my mind. The union, if you're a conspiracy theorist, the union had issues with the land that they were on. Do you think that had any connection with the position that the union had taken or not taken? And was it sort of a maneuvering to sort of put pressure on the union to negotiate? Was it to your mind?
No, I wouldn't.
Two separate issues?
Yes, there are two separate issues as it relates to the referendum and the sale of the property. Yes.
Okay. In all fairness, I think one of the question that Kevin just, and I heard Dominique's reaction, but what it highlights, and I actually wanted to introduce this into this conversation, because this issue should be and is so emotional. It is a part of our identity as Belizeans, and it has become so divisive. But what it has birthed is a level of cynicism that some people aren't comfortable with, as we hear there. So everything is tied to another and to another, and sometimes the little minute details are being dived into, perhaps given way too much time in the media too. I can agree to that.
Thank you.
But the issue is, how do you, there seems to be a level of, let me phrase it differently. There seems to be a lack of separation, that people believe you can think about just the referendum, as you just said, that they're separate issues. Do you think that we are there as Belizeans, that we can look at the referendum vote for what it is, or is it all mired in all the politics and the personalities and the who said what and how they said it? Do you think we can and will look at this issue objectively?
No.
What? Tell me. Go ahead.
I think a lot of what is happening is because we are so entrenched in political loyalty, and when you can either become a political chauvinist, where you speak and you're boisterous and you're belligerent on your position on whatever it is that your party says that's how it is, and you not question nothing, or you could be quiet and docile and not say anything, right? And both of those things contribute to creating this political environment where everything is connected to everything. And we said this because he said that, and that's how we went, because that's how everybody is say it, or that's how I choose to be, because I don't choose to question or discuss nor have a dialogue without being disrespectful and without having an argument, right? I don't think as a society, and this is a general thing, because there are people who have elevated discussions around things, but like Doc said, I think we are so preoccupied with surviving that there is no time to have an elevated discussion about anything.
But you said that you believe that there are political loyalties. Wouldn't this be the time when you have the least political loyalties?
No,
because
it should have been.
Because if you factor in a couple of things, the first thing you factor in is that each person in this room and in this country and in the diaspora has a gut feeling on this vote tomorrow.
Of course.
Everyone.
Everyone.
We had guests the last time I was here who said, listen, at the end of the day, when I go into this polling booth, I'm going to lock out everything, and if I can't make up my mind, I'm going to go with my gut, which is going to be true for everybody. The second thing is that the political parties are in a mux right now. It's not PUDUP, it's a mux. The PUP, its leader is a yes leader, but has gone back to saying no because after consultation. The UDP had said first, we're going to let people vote their conscience, and they came back and said our party position is no. We have politicians on television, UDP politicians saying we can't tell people how to vote. We have the third parties linking up with the PUP. We have stalwart members of the UDP, of the PUP, helping the UDP in certain areas. It's so confusing that there is no political loyalty. Do you agree with that?
No.
Explain to me where political loyalty is.
I don't agree to that, simply because then the direction that has been taken, like what you were explaining earlier. The fact that, you know what, if I am a PUP, I go no. If I am a UDP, I go yes. That's basically what it is. That's the odd that are out there at this point in time. Now we also have to be mindful that they are like what my good sister said over there. At the end of the day, some of us, it's just who is telling us. My parent might just be a diehard UDP, and no matter what they say to her, if UDP say yes, she's gonna go yes. And we know of others who are just the same. So the loyalty aspect.
Are you putting too much credit into the political parties?
No, I'm not putting too much credit.
Because you're saying loyalty.
No.
Kevin,
I am condemning
listen.
it simply because it shouldn't have never been that way. That's the problem. That's the situation I have.
Sir,
Tell me.
let me just give you a couple seconds.
Breathe in, Wusa.
Clearly, this is an issue.
Of course, it's a
irritates you
political
about the
issue, and
country.
you cannot separate it, because parties have taken positions on the issue. Because parties
Confusing
are
positions.
putting up positions at that. Generally, UDP that yes and PUP that no. That's it. Generally, you cannot say that it is not a political issue because parties are putting up flags on streets saying a certain position. Parties are putting up billboards on streets saying a certain position. Parties have campaigners on the streets telling people how to vote.
Yes.
Just we do operate exactly like how general election happened. So you cannot say to me, in insane mind, Mr. Arthurs, that this is not a political issue, that there is not political loyalty, because monies are being spent from political parties. Even I listened to the Prime Minister last night, and he was so honest. He said there is no way this could. He said it is unfortunate that it is a political issue, but this is where we're at, because there is no other group of people who are mobilizing anyone to come out to vote, because there is no incentive. There's not just me saying, hey, I'm a UDP, so come up because I'm UDP, and I just went. No, people, you have to move people, and that is the
culture we've.
And moving people requires money. He mentioned transportation, but you know well and more that not only transportation money we use.
What other kind of money we're using?
Oh.
To buy vote.
And raffles.
Lad, man, no. You come to a certain point, but that's the thing when you're ready for jump over the cliff, you're afraid for self or buy vote. A few things. I think that the negotiation processes we've heard many times have failed, and with their power there. I disagree. I think negotiators have failed at the process. We have to rethink that strategy. Second, I want to put the kettle pan too, where I represent the media. And I hope you can answer without getting fired. I think that we the best place where we could have facing this issue today, 7th of May. Marlene? Yes or no?
I asked the questions and I answered them.
Oh, no, man, that no work. This is our tongue.
This is our reflection.
You can share the answer you feel.
But not wrong to say that I don't think we're there where we're supposed to be.
I have no problem
answering that question.
I have no problem reflecting the question in terms of, I'm curious to see what the masses think. What I think is.
Come on, Kevin, you don't know what the masses think.
No, I agree. That's why.
Don't play the fool.
That's why we have people who represent chunks of the masses. We have the unions, which is one of the largest groups.
Anyway, you don't look like you're going to answer the question. They dodge it, which is unfair, no? Because you don't put me up for make we talk.
Sure. Okay, go ahead.
We agreed, of course. Now, the only thing I could hope from a miracle. Miracle through two people in this country. We have leaders, the two biggest leaders, Dean and John. Okay? Yeah. I hope that the cliche stands where the wife run them. And ask Miss Kim and Miss Briseño for talk to them about it. Put this on hold. Yes, we don't spend $20 million and so forth. Put it on hold and make we come together. It's never too late. It's never too late. Even if the next 24 hours, hey, we're not in the best position. Let's go back at this. Please. It might represent, what I fancy word, naivety, when you're naive. Okay, it might represent that on my part. I don't think so. I know exactly. Because we have international pressures. You get conspiracy theories that, why this? Are we getting pressure from UK, from the US?
But no.
Okay?
No.
So, but it's this stuff we, and I want to address them 3 people who signed that paper where come from UK and European Union. Hey, Mibal, you go deal with your Brexit before you come mess with me. Since you're so big and bad for giving an opinion, go give your opinion for your Brexit and for your European business. And the States, they are not also to ambassador yet. Mr. Trump, you know much problems they got, and then they mess with it because they got the cheese.
Let me ask you this. You're saying so you're asking the question as to whether or not we are ready. But is there ever going to be a time when we're actually ready? I'm asking.
We could be better ready.
Yeah. So
we could be better
It's kind of like getting married. When you were getting married, I'm sure you weren't sure if you were. So there's never always a perfect time to do any perfect thing.
I know they asked for a perfect time. I asked for a better time. And that better time could at least one symbolism of nationalism. Okay? I sure we ain't got the 5% UDP where one never change and the 5%
might be more than 5
or now. Whatever. But I think we did at the worst place. We did at the bottom of the barrel right now. As opposed to afterwards, we could be in a better position, man.
Mr. Morgan wants to chip in.
I want to dive in just a little bit to what you're saying here, because what your general perception is that because of the partisan divide that exists, that we should not be moving into the referendum.
Exactly.
And you speak of the loyalists.
Sorry, make I say the next way. Because of the lack of national position.
And that's a very positive way to frame it. That's where we should
because
be.
of the lack, we should be national
Yes.
thing.
But I wanna get
before,
just
before,
let me finish this question first. So it is one of the things we hear very often about the party loyalists that exist, you know, and it's true. You'll have people who will vote along party lines no matter what. You ask them why they're yes or no, they can't tell you. They just because the party said so. But it is important for us to recognize that there are still people in this country who have not made up their mind or who are not going to vote based on party politics. I'd venture to say some of you here, you have a third party, but still not PUP, UDP, will be some of those votes here. Some of the people I've spoken to
Nobody in this room. Nobody votes by politics. Nobody in this room.
Exactly. So I don't want to simply say that we can dismiss this vote as red pushing, blue pushing, and that is the sole reason we're going yes or no. So how do you account for people like you? How do you make your decision? You don't want to vote according to red or blue. How will you decide come tomorrow? What are you going to be looking at? Whether we're ready or not, you have to make the decision.
Go ahead, Mr. Morgan.
Just now we heard wise words. I mean, sober. You know when we're praying for sobriety in our national prayer. I just heard sobriety just now, and it was missed totally. We could still put off this referendum. It's basic sobriety, but we pass it off. We'll still have to do this referendum. It cannot be put off. Even 10 hours, where are we? 24?
About 24
hours before. We could still do this together in a national consensus. So what I'm saying here is that we must not dismiss even those suggestions that seem far-fetched. Right now, if the Prime Minister would come on and the leader of the opposition would come on and say, listen, we got a nice dream and we're going to postpone this thing until we get up to a point. It would be a dream, correct? But that is sobriety. This is craziness, and we don't want to admit it.
Now, that brings me to this point here in terms of messaging. I've heard a lot of people say, this is wise and that is wise, this is unpatriotic, that's unpatriotic. Yeah. And it seems to just align with what we believe. So if I believe that somebody is if I'm a no and somebody is speaking, I want to tune in and say, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And if I am a yes and somebody is speaking who's a no, I said, person is a complete idiot, we shall.
Why do you even give in your
Yeah,
turn?
we should have sent it to Guatemala. How is it, and I want to go back to Marlene's question because I think it is an important question. Maybe I could get the youths in on it. We're here tomorrow, and as Doc said, and as you said, it's far-fetched and a bit naive to say that they'll wake up tomorrow and push this thing off. We're here, we have to do that now. How at this last minute we can get people to look at it and assess it for what it really is and get a true vote?
Pray.
You cannot.
What is the answer?
I watched when some university students were on. I think Zachary said that at this point you're just going to gut feeling.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that any amount of documents you read at this point, or commercials you see, or talks you have with either side, it will come down to your gut feeling. Like if you feel so strongly about something. It will that the way for real.
It will come down to political
or the education
loyalty
that you've gotten.
I mean, within for some of us it will, but you're being groomed in an environment, man.
Yeah.
You cannot dismiss the environment in which we are being groomed. So that's what influences whatever decision you make, even if it's way back in your mind and you feel like, hey, me just do this because I believe that I educated enough and I read enough. Something subconsciously, your environment is influencing what you're saying.
Has there been a waste of money in certain areas though? I was with a friend yesterday and he said, listen, He said, you point me to somebody, anybody, who was one position, and they heard a commercial from another person. For example, Miss the soca artist.
Ernestine.
That they saw the Ernestine Carballo commercial, and they said, you know what, I now changed my mind. Have we misplaced, or has anybody really sat at a town hall and said, listen, after that town hall, I was this hard position, and I've completely changed my position? Have we wasted some money in terms of putting resources in places that have not been effective to educate us, and have gone to some gimmicks like the concerts and the billboards and the
Song competition.
Well, I think you answered your question.
Yes.
You used the word gimmicks just now.
I do believe.
Do you think it's a gimmick?
Some of those funds could have been used in doing, I would say, more enhanced education. And let me elaborate a little on that. The simple fact that the education that was out there had been more at a higher level, right? I don't see our education coming down to the grassroots people. And that, for me, even our questions still haven't been simplified. Our question is still the higher level question, and how is it that me, man, somebody that finishes standard 6, I am a person who is going out there to vote, and this question is going to be placed on my ballot.
Do you agree?
At the end of the day, it's just going to say yes or no, right? That's basically what it is. What is the question really asking me as a standard 6 graduate? I was at a AGM recently, and we had individuals who came to participate and vote and don't know how to read. How do we reach out to these people?
Yeah.
That's where I must say that we could have invested some of those monies that we invested in ads, saying yes and saying no or whatsoever. I am confident of that fact.
We're touching on a very critical topic, and that's looking at the education campaign. You guys had the first jump at talking about what you hoped it was going to be like, and then we saw what it became after. We'll go deeper into that discussion after a break, so we will be back in a few. Stay tuned.
For over 20 years, Great Belize Television, Channel 5, has been the leader in award-winning local programming. We have also produced some of the best video commercials, documentaries, and live events for clients countrywide. And we continue to offer high-quality production services to maximize your advertising needs for your business or organization. From concept to completion, let us help you achieve your marketing goal by producing your commercial, documentary, graphic animation, live event, or even designing your website. Using state-of-the-art equipment and experienced personnel, we can make your ideas come alive. For more information, come see us on Coney Drive or give us a call at 223-0146 or 223-7781 or email us at gbtv@dtl.net. Great Belize Productions, making great television in Belize.
We're back and we're continuing our conversation. Tomorrow is a very important day. Belizeans go to the poll, yes or no, we will decide. And of course, as a part of our final reflection, we're going back with some panelists who were a part of our first ICJ Town Hall. You got the opportunity to speak directly at that time to the head of the referendum unit, Ambassador Alexis Rosado, and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Wilfred Elrington, before we really saw the ramping up of the campaign. And Doreth, we closed off by talking about your concerns that you have members of your very same union who perhaps their education level ended at standard 6, unfortunately. And how much have those people been able to access the information that's been put forward? So I want to bring that into the conversation, because a critical part of tomorrow, and you've said it so many times, it's fascinating, is that people will go on gut reaction. But we've invested time, energy, and more importantly, resources in educating people so that it shouldn't be a gut decision. So let's take some time to reflect on what the education campaign has been, and be fair. If there is something that was good about it, say that, and where it has been lacking.
Okay,
So you're going to start?
Yeah, because
let me start. I must say that for the education to the public officers, that's my constituents. It had been one whereby time was granted. The education aspect as it relates to information sharing was done throughout Belize, from all the way Toledo, all the way up north to Corozal. This education was one whereby I can't say they had the yes side and the no side. It was mainly providing the information to our public officers from the Referendum Commission, as well as other individuals who believed to have been knowledgeable of the information. We had in Cayo several individuals who went and did presentation, including Mr. Morgan, to our public officers in the west of the country. But my concern still lies in the fact of we have public officers who didn't complete secondary school.
Yeah.
And I am concerned of my members who would then need to go out and vote, and the question, the information shared with them was never brought down to their level. It remains at a higher level of intelligence. And I'm going to go back to the simple fact of that word artificial border, right? When my colleagues would hear artificial, the first thing you think about is what? Something that is fake, that is not real. But it was never explained to our members that, you know what, artificial in this content or this context simply means that it's a man-made border, right? That's just one aspect of it. The entire question that is placed on our ballot that we're going to vote on tomorrow was never simplified. It remains that question, and it stayed that question. Now, I go back to my people who don't have a high school diploma. Tomorrow's vote, I encourage them, I urge them to come out and vote. But again, we'll go back to that.
If you'd let me, what I hear from you, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you feel that the education campaign was suffice for some people, but not those who perhaps did not complete secondary school. So a more simplified version of the campaign was lacking.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think everything, and I don't want to sound like I'm going back on what I said about everything influencing each other. But I think everything is a microcosm of another. And if you look at, I think what I get from what you're saying. Hold on, man. Like, I think if you look at, I think what we're getting at here is the inclusivity of the education campaign. And I'm not only thinking about people who didn't finish school and didn't have the opportunity to finish school. I'm thinking about people who are blind and people who can't hear, and those people, right? Or have some sort of intellectual deficiency of some sort. If it is that we could not get to them, then that's marginalization and disenfranchisement and all of that stuff. So if I don't think the education campaign or the readability of the question was this is something I learned from Khalila Enriquez. If someone can't, if someone from primary school can't read and understand what you're saying, then it makes no sense. You need to break it down. You're not breaking communication barriers. And I don't think that had happened. I know that the pamphlets went out at parades and it was thrown off trucks, and there are thousands of it printed, and some still in my office, and these things like
That's bad.
And it's interesting because I've seen photos, and this is just reflections here of a baby holding the pocket guide to the referendum, which is a part of the photographs used by the referendum unit. But it's a baby. I mean, they really can't read. You're sure they can't read? I heard an ad yesterday, and this is an interesting one. Perhaps simplifying, where instead of saying Harvard, they said Harvard. I don't know if that helps in simplifying information for people. It's
offensive.
I'm just saying that this is part of what we've seen. So saying Harvard with a Creole accent somehow makes it more accessible. I don't know. But
I think it makes it more relatable.
Probably.
Can you guys go try an exercise with me? And the rules of my exercise are very simple. I just want one word answers from you guys.
Okay.
And the name of the exercise is help or hurt. I will go through a series of words or organizations, and I only want you to respond either help or hurt. If it was helpful to, there will be none of that on the ballot. I'm going to go through this list very quickly.
we need the paddles. Where are the paddles?
Very quickly, and you just tell me, do not explain.
Okay.
So I want to start off with the first word, help or hurt. Referendum unit.
Hurt.
Okay, hurt.
Help.
Hurt.
Help.
Okay.
The Belize peace movement.
Hurt.
Hurt.
Help.
Well, of course.
You should have answered first. You didn't answer.
Citizens for the defense of sovereignty.
I don't know what that made a difference. It's
Help or hurt.
Whoever's ready.
Hurt.
Help.
Hurt.
Hurt. The injunction.
Help.
Help.
Guatemala voting first. Help or hurt.
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 Help.
Hurt.
The Starstoon excursions.
Help.
Help.
Hurt.
The polls.
Help.
Help.
The 5 foreign ministers.
Hurt.
Hurt.
The legal opinions.
Help.
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 Assad Schumann.
Hurt.
Hurt.
Why are you chairperson? I thought this man out your men.
These are
I
just.
think he helped. I think
if
he
you were
was genuine men. To some degree, I
No
think he
explanation.
was.
no explanation. No explanation.
You see, my dear, there's no to certain extent here.
No explanation.
This is our national
This is a help or hurt. This is a help or
existential
hurt.
issue.
It's a help or hurt.
You can't-
the reason.
Continue.
The reason.
We have one more.
No, I already did that one. But the reason I did that was because when you're breaking down your experience, there are certain things that jump out at you. And if you were to summarize these things, and you summarize it in bullet points, these would be the things to my mind that would summarize our experience. I'm sure there are other things that people would add
Of
in,
course,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
of course.
but that's what it is. Go ahead.
Any reflection from that exercise?
No, I think it's.
You
it's
seem to have
on
said
point.
hurt for everything.
Yeah. I mean, the
Legal
thing,
opinions help.
I was thinking about that. That I
Yeah.
sound very
Seneca?
pessimistic.
But you were very
I'm
optimistic about the 24-hour change of date.
Oh yes, I'm still praying for a miracle.
Yeah.
Through the hands of two people. No, I can go back to the joke that the woman rule the world, and Miss Barrow and Miss Briseno and telling her husband what to do by tomorrow. I'm praying for that. Which so many things I pray for and I don't get it.
A good doctor should pray for.
So I'm going to tell them while we are waiting that there's a thing in medicine we call one timeout where the patient up on the operating table and just before they put them to sleep they have one timeout for a minute where the lead surgeon will say, name of patient, Kevin Artas, yeah, he not. We not got Marilyn instead of Kevin. Surgery we want to go with the right testicle instead of the left one. Which anesthesia, we got blood. We take one time out for make sure we got it right.
Everything.
Of course.
Okay? So that could be applied here, no? Just one time out.
Absolutely.
Okay?
And pause, yeah.
This whole this whole education thing hasn't been an education thing. It's been a propaganda thing. No way you cut it. They talk about formal education and this referring to degrees. I have found that you have to break down the barriers of degrees. I got smarter man than me without one standard 6 diploma. Okay? I have man where think things through, where reason, where show intelligence without one high school diploma. So that no play when it comes to the thing. It has been a propaganda. I want to say accountability afterwards. I want to see who's get what or who spend what pan and pan the two sides.
Of course.
Okay? So hopefully we can get that. But I go back to the point, guys. Please, no Guatemala picnic the suffer because of this claim. Guatemalans aren't being affected because of this claim. Belizeans aren't being affected because of this claim.
The chicken bowl.
Okay? Come
the
on.
Stone.
Then they go, not because then they claim Belize, then they go to find something to eat. If they made it on the next side of the border or next side for them border to Mexico, then they must go across where we don't know about. Then they eat. Then they find one livelihood. We not take out gold and the chate and thing. I lived at Petén for 6 months. I have made it a fact over this past year for address in regular Guatemalan. You know how much Guatemala influence we got at Belize right now? Just out of the medical field. How much of my boys then come from Guatemala where they help the Belizeans? Where I have on daily interactions with Guatemalans. I have made it a point to go, what do you feel? What? Whoa, don't worry about Belize, man. Only certain people, only the top people but Belize and Guatemala, they worry about it.
I think that has been my point of growth from this conversation, because I'm not, or maybe I was very anti-Guatemalan. So I no go at the Melchor. If a product comes from Guatemala, I not buy it. I was very much that person. And I was very much, when it comes to the people too, like why one of the come our schools, that kind of thing. But in my travels, I think sometime last year, I went to Peru and I met a young lady from Guatemala. And of course there was a language barrier, but there was someone to translate for us because I don't speak Spanish and she doesn't speak English. And I made it a point to bring it up in forum about discussing things that affect my country. I said, well, a country is claiming my entire country. And she was dumbfounded that was the issue that I brought up, because to her that didn't mean anything, right? And I was like, how can it mean nothing to you? And then we had a discussion, of course, through a translator and all of that. And that was an eye-opening where you look at people rather than the borders that separate us. Of course, I see one my 8867, but it is more than just the 8867 and the people that share this mass of land, no?
But you know, this is getting to me. This is getting me, and let me get this off my chest. To somehow say, this is me personally speaking, which I probably should not do, but to assess the situation based on what the average person on the ground is saying or feeling, to me is a distraction.
Man, but the average man is
if it is, for example, let's say you have a war, and you take 2 soldiers out of the 2 fighting camps, and you put them together in a room, they won't have any difference of opinion. This issue is not a person-to-person problem. This is a national political differendum between 2 countries. And so if we analyze it on that level, we really are missing a point, and we probably give credence to one side's political advantage and take a disadvantage by doing so. Yeah. How do you respond to that, Doc?
Okay.
But I haven't impacted on the education.
Sure, go ahead.
Let us not fool ourselves. There has not been an education campaign. There has been an advocacy campaign. That's different than education. The peace movement has been the longest organization in this whole matter. We have taken a position, we had taken a position very early. Well, of course, the POP just came on board, and we have been advocating something, not educating. The next side has been also advocating. There's a difference.
Wait, now I just want to qualify because, are you talking about the referendum unit? Because there is a formal yes campaign and then there's the education unit.
Well, let me just, I've been with them all along. There is no difference between the opinions of the referendum unit and the CDS. One and the same. One is paying the bills for the other.
What are
Right?
CDS?
Huh?
Citizens for the Defense of Sovereignty.
Yeah.
That's the Assad group?
Yes.
Yeah, Assad group. The ones that, they take down the billboards of the referendum unit. First you used to see referendum unit, now it's CDS. It's one and the same. And when we go on debates, of course it will always be 2v1. I've been there. So let's not fool ourselves, Belizeans. There has always been an advocate for the yes and an advocate for the no. The peace movement has led the advocacy for the no, and the government of Belize has led the advocacy.
So there
for
has
the
been
yes.
no education campaign,
There
not
has
even
been
on,
none.
not even on the no side.
No, yes, no. I told you that the peace movement
I just wanted to-
is
to
an
be clear.
advocate, not an education
Okay.
campaign.
I like the question that Kevin posed big time. I think that's a really strong question. And I'm thinking how to answer that. I think governments are made from the people and there to represent the will of the people. Okay? We Belizeans Guatemalans put the people in leadership positions so that they could carry down their crime, they could have better quality of life. And if this thing not affect them, they wait to the bottom of the list, then so be it. Okay? We have the same issues, Kevin. Going back to your war example, wars have ended because of people, not because of leaders. The Vietnam never war because my boy say one day, boy, well, you know, make we stop this war. No, that the people gone out there and say we need to stop this war. If they left to the leaders, you go back to the conspiracy theories, they advocate for war so that then companies could get cheese.
Yes.
Okay, so they never do me then Vietnam War. Nixon. You never get up on there, boy, I had a funny that I want to stop this war because too much Americans are dead. No, that the mothers and fathers where they got them picking the dead of Vietnam called for make them stop the war. So
can I ask this? Can I ask this in terms of that brings me to another question, just to broaden it back again, and maybe to piggyback on a question that you asked. How ready are we? We have the issues of we merged together re-registration. We uncovered a whole mess at the registry. We have the diaspora vote.
Yeah.
That issue.
The legal issues.
The legal issues which are still in court. How much do those factor in terms of our readiness to actually go tomorrow? And how
well,
much
you
will
go
that
answer that, Kevin. Where you ask me that for?
No, I think
I have an opinion, but I'm not important.
I
I'm
want to
one.
I
hear
had the
yours.
opportunity
I need to hear your opinion.
sit with the observers from CARICOM when they came for the first date, right?
Okay.
And I sat with them and I told them that I think too much is happening for us to handle because I know the elections and boundaries is suffering so much. The amount of hours those public officers work is deplorable. And that is their job, right? But you have to make some concession for, okay, we're going to do this re-registration, then we're going to move into a referendum, then we may move into a general election, then there's this council elections, and there's all of this happening for this one group of people to handle.
Yes.
That will affect quality. And then if you have people who are registered and are not registered and you can't find the records, that will affect quality. That will affect people's trust in whoever is advocating for whatever side.
I can jump in there. I always blame the regular Belizean in a certain positions. Okay? None of the politicians have the absolute power. So if Mr. Mai, make we call name, because she represents the actually she the head person. My understanding that she's everything set. That we're good to go. Am I wrong? Anybody say one day?
Yeah.
So I know they misinterpret what I'm hearing from her. You did suggest, I feel that we're not ready from that angle. So
In terms of logistics.
Logistics and everything else. So why she not come out and say, listen, guys, we're not ready. Mr. Barrow or Mr. Bristeno, we're not ready.
But quite the opposite.
Why does she she have a job she needs to keep?
Quite the opposite. I think that things are ready. We saw the destruction of the old ballot boxes. The public servants were trained.
Logistic. I hear two different issues
Yeah,
here. I logistic issues
and the
I
registration
hear the preparation of an individual to make the decision.
I will comment on both. As it relates to the long hours of public officers working, especially from the elections and bounties, that is true. They work 2 in the morning to have made certain that the registration was complete before the date of the referendum, at least a month, because you had 1 month when the registration had stopped. As it relates to the logistics, I think at some point there were some mishaps as it relates to, you know what, we're going to finish our re-registration by such a date. Somehow the timeline that probably was put in place didn't match up to the actuality of the timeline that they came across. Simply because at the beginning, re-registration started from last year, right? The number of people who came out to re-register wasn't as much as they have anticipated during the logistical plan put together. And so by the time we hit, what, March? March was the deadline, 12th of March, right? We still had a lot of people coming.
You saw the last minute rush.
Yes. And then you have to also consider the aspect of the technology that is being used, because that in itself played a role as well, because now you're doing a mass copy of IDs that again hindered some of the process in people receiving their IDs when they come in to get it and so forth. So by Ms. Tamai putting out there that yes, they were ready. If you guys can recall, every month she was giving updates as it relates to the number of re-registered voters and so forth. So she was doing what was expected of her and updating the public as to, you know what, this is where we are. This is a percentage of our electorates who have already came in to re-register. So in that case, I believe that to the point of March, they were ready. She is convinced that they were ready for the referendum to take place.
You know the final voters list has not been issued yet?
Yeah.
Because again, I agree, because again,
the final voters list has not been published.
Of the glitches of the situation as it relates to the system that they had put in place.
How does the voters list cycle work?
It was finalized on Friday. Yeah, it was finalized, and I wanted to clarify that because I know that they were doing the final vetting on Friday, and it should have been ready by yesterday. Because of the injunction, the date for the final registration was moved. So in absolute clarity, that's what we have been informed.
And that was
let me just come back because we're in our final 5 minutes, right? And I don't want to lose this opportunity. So here's the thing. Ready or not, here it comes, right? And with your absolute optimism of Mrs. Barrow and Briceño changing minds, that's one option. But let's look at the option we have on the table this morning. In less than 24 hours, people will be going out to the polls or deciding if they'll be going out to the polls, yourselves included, right? While we can look back and say all that has happened should have happened, you know, could have happened, it really makes no difference at this point. So I want you to kind of just share as a voter, because that's, no matter what group you represent, we are all individuals and we have our own way of thinking and way of making decisions. And I want you to share, based on your own experience, how do you plan on making this decision tomorrow? I know some people have made their position clear.
Amen. Made up.
But give us some insight, because I guarantee you the amount of people I've met who say, I don't know how to vote. They're going into that booth, whether unprepared or just fearful of making such a big decision. So share your insights as to how you'll make that decision tomorrow.
Well, from a very personal standpoint, I've made my decision already. But what I want to tell the Belizean people and use perhaps one of our most successful philosopher, national philosopher, who said the famous words, "No listen to the noise in the market. Check. Change in your pocket." You know what it's about, no? Michael Finnegan. And I think they should use that. No listen to the noise out there, just...
It was actually boots. It was actually boots.
Boots, sorry. No, you should have boots.
I'm sure it's boots.
Well, I made a big error for the give titles when I not due. For the national philosopher.
So block out everything.
Block out everything and vote your heart. Okay? And what you feel.
Doreth?
For me, I would say based on the education that I have received, the information that has been shared with me from both sides, I will use those information and then make my vote tomorrow.
Okay. So you want to reflect on the education.
So just make
Morgan,
so you haven't made a decision personally yet?
I have
You
made
want to
a
use the next
decision.
22 hours for finalize that?
No. She was asking how my decision is going to be made. My
When she
decision,
goes into the
yes,
booth tomorrow.
it's based on the education that I have received from both sides.
For me, it is risk and trust.
And to the next generation to close it all off for us this morning.
My decision, I think my mind is made up. Education will, the stuff that I've read will play a part, but I also trust my instinct very much, and I trust that, and I know the editor for the Amanda last week, before he wrote his editorial, spoke to guidance of the Belizean people. And I think that's, whatever it is that your guidance looks like, whatever education you got, whatever it is that you go into that room with and behind that station with, just go with that and stay true to that, and then hold on to it after. Because I think for us, just very quickly, I think Belize has an issue with acknowledging our history, recent or far away, and we are quick to drop things when we already made a decision. So hold on to your history, whatever that is.
All right. Well, thank you for being a part of this 1 year ago, for being a part of this today. And we know oftentimes people shy away from having a public conversation like this, but we chose the fearless ones this morning, and we're grateful for that. Thank you once again. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking to the police department about safety on referendum day. So please stay tuned.